Dave, thanks for being on the Expedition Money podcast here.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure to be here.
I think from a pure podcast standpoint, you're my first guest.
I'm honored.
Well, I'm honored just to be here myself, even though I started the thing. But I wanted to ask you a couple things about your journey to financial advising, because I think there's a lot of controversy around that or difference of opinions. But before we get into that, we've known each other a long time. You have been in the financial services and insurance world for a long time. You are the founder and head of Cotinuum Insurance. I was just wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about what you do and how you help people, because we have worked together on financial wellness and even worked together now, and you've been a great advisor on my program because the insurance component is such an important piece to a holistic financial wellness experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I founded Cotinuum Insurance Agency during COVID after I got laid off from my corporate job. I was at a crossroads, didn't need to make any immediate decisions, but started exploring some other corporate roles and decided I didn't want to do that anymore. I really felt like now was the time to establish an entrepreneurial effort, something I had thought about for a long time. And it was the right opportunity to do that. So I established a health insurance agency. I already had my health insurance license in my home resident state of Illinois, plus some additional adjoining states, and was able to take the other side of an industry I had spent over 30 years working on from an insurance company perspective. I could actually do it more directly with end user customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I kind of remember is you were even thinking about retiring at that point too. You had that option. And so that kind of gives me a lot of confidence in what you were doing, because you could easily have chose to go the easy route, but you continue to apply your craft and help people, and you get to work with some individuals, some businesses, you're working with some organizations. This is really taking off in a way that's helping a lot of people. So I really appreciate getting to hear some of those stories. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you, because I think a lot of people throughout their journey, their financial journey, we start on our own. We set up 401ks, do some investing. Maybe some people get a financial advisor at some point, or insurance or something like that. But you have a unique path because you had a financial advisor, and then you didn't have a financial advisor, and now you have a financial advisor again. And so I was just wondering if you could tell me why you took that path. What kind of got you off the financial advisor train and then back onto it, so that as people think about their financial life and do I need one, or what should I consider before I get one? What are those things that you went through to decide whether or not to use one?
Yeah, I was doing it myself and not doing a great job of it early in my career. And then I think as time wore on, I did a better job with managing contributions into my 401k. I was part of an alumni group at Northwestern, and we had hosted a homecoming reception. And we were able to get, through someone's connection, American Express, which was in the financial advising business at the time, to be a sponsor. And all they asked was, hey, if anyone would like to meet with a financial advisor, try and do it with American Express in exchange for them having sponsored our event. I was a good alum and wanted to support the sponsor, so I set up a connection with somebody. And even though I didn't have a lot of money side of my 401k to invest, he was willing to meet with me, gave me some guidance, and basically hoping that one day the money would roll over into an IRA he could manage. I did end up with a little bit of extra money outside my workplace investments and thought it might be fun to invest in some stocks, and had some good experience doing that. But I remember meeting with him. He was really diligent about meeting every quarter. And essentially, looking back at it, he was just looking for referral. He was just looking to establish the relationship and hopefully get in front of mind and get some referrals. I remember saying, I'd like to invest in Apple Computer. I think that would be a really great stock. They're like a really impressive company. And he came back and said, I think you should invest in Compaq. For anyone who's younger, you probably don't know, Compaq at the time was a very big business computer PC maker that is nowhere to be found today. Had I followed my gut, I would have gotten in on Apple at a very early stage. And I think that experience basically taught me financial advisor doesn't know anything more about picking than I do, just based on information that's available to both of us. That's golden age of the internet. It's democratized information. I then realized I'm not really getting much value out of this relationship. So I think I'm just going to go it alone, and did more research and ended up refining my 401k selections and doing really well at the options that were available, and picking pretty low cost, low expense funds and diversifying to a certain degree, and started my journey on my own. I then, as I got closer to retirement, I thought at some point I may need an advisor, not so much to help with wealth accumulation, but more for a strategy around distributions, timing, taxes. So I ended up actually meeting up with somebody shortly after COVID. We met online during COVID. And one of the things that I really appreciated about the advisor I am with now is he was invested in me and my business. And the first thing he did is started referring insurance clients to me. So it felt like he was more invested in me as a person and as a professional than as a dollar sign. And so that was something that I think set him apart. Because when I established my agency, I went on LinkedIn, setting up my profile, and you get the opportunity when you start your own business to give yourself a title. I gave myself the title CEO. Little did I know that every financial advisor in Chicago has a LinkedIn Sales Navigator list around the title CEO. So I was being bombarded with LinkedIn email messages, thinking I was like running some giant corporation, and it was just me as a solopreneur. This gentleman, his name is Andres Rodriguez, did a phenomenal job just being invested in me as a person and in starting being a startup entrepreneur, and not as how much money do you have to invest and can I have it?
Yeah. No, awesome. How much do you think your background, your work experience helped you fill that gap between financial advisors? Obviously, you went to college, you're very smart, you worked in financial services, you probably had some exposure to investment through work. You certainly have an affinity towards that. Even if you weren't working on investments, when you talk about investments a lot, some people will have different or varying degrees of interest in that. How much did that impact your DIY phase?
Yeah, I would say my DIY phase was hugely influenced by the work I was doing. So at the time, I was on a project team developing a financial wellness program for our corporate clients to extend the wellness space from physical and mental wellness to also financial wellness. This was just after the Great Recession. People were still recovering from that and struggling with their finances nationwide. There's a lot of studies around. And it's because I was involved in establishing a financial wellness product, I was very much reading about financial issues, learning about them, attending conferences. So it was definitely front of mind, and being able to tap into the amount of hours I spent on that topic for my own personal enrichment was a huge benefit.
Yeah, for sure. Was there a particular pain or pain point you had that kind of drove you back to a financial advisor to seek one out? Was there something that was worrying you or a concern that you had going into those retirement or pre-retiring years? Or was it just, hey, I think I just want to double check a second pair of eyes on things, or was there something a little more acute?
Yeah, I think financial security was a huge motivator. So for me, it's always the fear of, will I be financially secure? So I have spent a lot of energy around wealth accumulation, doing a lot of savings. Is it going to be enough? What happens if I live a long time like my two grandmothers have, well into their 90s? Will the money last? And so I couldn't quite wrap my head around how to figure that out, how to know if I had enough. How do I know if I was spending too much or underspending in my retirement years, and how to plan and make a plan for that before it was too late. So that was the struggle I was having. I think getting laid off from COVID brought all those issues and anxieties to the forefront. So it was the right time for me to have that conversation with all of this.
Awesome. And in terms of other people out there that maybe they've been saving, they've been putting away money in their 401k, they haven't really thought they've had enough or enough complexity to their life yet that they need a financial advisor, what would you say to people? What would your advice be for someone who's maybe looking at a financial advisor or looking for the signals that say, hey, maybe I should start seeking one out or having those conversations? And then what would you say they should look for when they hire one or take one on and start a relationship?
Yeah, I think it's definitely based on your personal situation. I wasn't planning on inheriting any money from any relative. I didn't have a trust fund. All of my retirement was going to come from my own savings and the growth of that. So for me, it was helpful to have an advisor, but ultimately a little bit costly. I think I could have relied on and did have some interactions with representatives at Fidelity through our company 401k plan. So Fidelity had managed plan. They offered resources for people at no additional cost. So I would say if you are a do-it-yourselfer like I was, tap into the resource from whoever is managing your company's 401k plan. It'll just give you some insights. They've got a lot of educational material you can also tap into, but also the ability to speak to someone, which sometimes is also helpful, and just leverage that. If, on the other hand, I was a young person with a trust fund, then maybe I would actually hire a financial advisor. And I think in terms of what to look for, I would say you definitely want to take your time and spend time getting to know them, trying to understand how invested are they in you and how invested are they in meeting their sales goal for the month. And definitely interview people and just take your time with it and make sure you're really feeling comfortable, because ultimately, not only do they need to have acumen around financial issues, but they've got to be invested in you as a person, in your dreams, in your goals, to really make that a satisfying relationship.
And even if you hire someone, it doesn't mean you have to stick with them forever. Just that you didn't, and that's the right decision for you to move on to another one. I think that's certainly okay too. Better to not stay in a situation that's not ideal for you. So lots of financial advisors out there, a lot of different specialties. I came from that world myself. And so I know that there's a lot of different people at a lot of different levels. And it's hard for me to say because, someone's new, maybe you don't want to give them a second look. But there are a lot of people that don't need a lot of complexity. And especially with people building their business, that can be a great place to start as they grow with you. Because as my father said, he didn't want to take on a lot of clients that he was going to leave when he retired because they worked with him and for 20, 30 years. Lots of different things to consider there. And I'm glad that you found one that's working with you and helping support your business. And obviously that continues to grow. You have a lot of other stuff coming up here as well. Any preview of what else Cotinuum has going on over the next year here in 2020?
Yeah, continue growth of our business. We primarily focus on 3 customer segments: individuals, both who are under 65 or solopreneurs or bridging the gap to Medicare, the Medicare eligible population, and the small business employer who's looking to offer benefits to their employee. We're doing a lot of activity right now to grow the small business employee benefits market. The Medicare market has been growing tremendously for us. A lot of the work that we put in during COVID and shortly thereafter is bearing a tremendous amount of dividends at this point. And the under 65 market is really a unique market. A lot of it's very transitory. As soon as people turn 65, they move to Medicare, or if they're under 65, they're in between jobs, get that full-time job with benefits, then they leave. So it's really there to help folks along the way, but oftentimes it's not truly the growth engine that we're focused on. It's more the Medicare business and small business clients.
Yeah, you really ran yourself ragged this fall with the Medicare work. So good to see that you came out of it no worse for wear.
That's one of the challenges of that segment. It's responsive to regulatory and market dynamics that you have relatively little amount of time to prepare for the onslaught during a very compressed amount of time during the annual enrollment period. It can be pretty crazy, but I'm glad I had new technologies and new systems in place that actually streamlined and could have been a lot worse.
All right. You've always been aware of technology and business systems to make the job as easy as possible, but nonetheless, still crushing it there. So I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing your journey to financial advisor and then back to financial advisor. I think it's really helpful for the people that are thinking about it or trying to figure out when they should take on a financial advisor, or even someone that maybe isn't a full-blown financial advisor, but even their insurance or some of the other types of things that they could get started in, annuities and some basic investing. Don't necessarily put it off, but definitely I love your tip there to find kind of the person that's the right partner for you, or the right vendor for you. So awesome. I will leave it there for now. Dave, I would love to have you back. There are so many topics we could talk about financial wellness related, please come back again and let's discuss some more. I got lots of stuff to pick your brain about.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. Thank you so much, Peter. Appreciate it.
See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.